What's up, everybody?
What's up?
It's our 43rd episode of the NFC East Show, and we're broadcasting live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, and of course, Roku TV for the Northeast Streaming Sports Network. What's up, guys?
Oh,
Oh,
same old, brother.
getting
Yeah,
closer to the draft.
yeah, we're 5 weeks away, or 4.5 weeks away, and things are
Still a lot,
happening.
still a lot of activity going down on the free agency market. So
I tell you, more quarterbacks on the move, more quarterbacks
yeah,
going
yeah,
all over the place.
surprisingly,
Who would have thought?
Yeah.
Like, who would have thought? That this is going to happen like this. That this is, that there was going to be such a quarterback carousel. Look at me using good words for this type of stuff. A quarterback carousel going on. First off, to think that Watson was going to go to Cleveland, out of all the places that we could have even thought that he was going to go, that Cleveland was not anywhere near on our list.
Nope.
And then now, like, all right, figuring that maybe that he would be the next one to go. Obviously, Baker Mayfield. No, the next one to move, Matt Ryan.
Yeah, Ryan.
yep. And following him will more than likely be Baker Mayfield. So,
Well, I figure Baker's going to wind up going somewhere, and then you start
Marcus
to think,
Mariota.
Marcus-
Marcus Mariota went to the Falcons, and then Saints re-signed Winston for 2 years. So
right? Which I figured was they just needed to do that. I feel like that they are going to be in the quarterback market next year, because they're. I mean, I guess that Taysom Hill is not a quarterback. They're not going to use him as a quarterback, or if they do use him as a quarterback, he's going to be like sort of one of those. I guess one of I'm saying scat back, but that's the wrong thing. The wildcat quarterback type thing. It's interesting. It's interesting how this is all playing out right now.
yeah, and Matt Ryan moving to Indy. It's I guess it's for the money reasons, for the cap space. But that's the third guy that they've taken at that age, a QB at that age, to try and get them to the promised land. And we're going to see if it's another failed experiment or another experiment that's going to pay out, like the Rams did.
What are your thoughts on him right now?
On Matt Ryan?
On Matt Ryan.
He's still a solid QB. I just believe he didn't have the offensive line there in Atlanta. He was just getting decimated. I mean, every step you look, he was running backwards and falling down. He just didn't have the offensive line.
offensive line or the weapons.
Yeah,
all he had was
he just had
Patterson.
he just had the one tight end, and that was it. So I think he's got the offensive line there in Indy, and he's going to be good.
Yeah.
He's going to be a lot better than what he was last year.
So, what do you think of the Falcons now?
Oof.
Feel bad for Mariota.
Well, I don't know. I mean, they were going after Deshaun Watson. The amount of time they spent going after Deshaun Watson, and everyone thinking that it was going to be, between them and New Orleans, and then popped, go to Browns. It just surprised everybody. I'm pretty sure, as well as the Atlanta team. So, if they sign Mariota, I think they're just going to go to the draft class. I think that's what they're going to do. They're not going to go out there and try and get another quarterback.
Yeah, they've got a high enough pick, don't they? They're in the top 5.
Well, but still, you have to. I mean, you still have to.
You still have to play to win.
Well, not only that, but I assume that you get the quarterback and you don't play him in the first year. I mean, I know that that's been something that happens now recently, but it's not something that has been, for real. Like I say, for the last couple of years now, rookie quarterbacks start where you never had that before. It was almost like they were redshirted for the first year or two, and it was the exception to the rule that would start ahead of time. Now it's the rule that rookie quarterbacks start, and I think that if you redshirt somebody, it becomes the exception. I feel that it's likely, because this quarterback class is so weak, that it might be in their better interest to get a second-round pick or a third-round pick for a quarterback, so that ultimately you're not investing too much automatically, where that has to be production. where you could actually, because I feel like there's not going to be a lot of first round talent. That means that I feel like that the second and third rounds are going to be stronger for quarterbacks. And you get a quarterback in the third round who in any other year, if they got as much push on that, you could get, it would move into the first round. So my expectation is that there's something more to be said for a quarterback who's taken in the third or fourth round this year in comparison to previous years.
Yeah.
And, that would be the way that I would go. And I would start working on the offensive line.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And leading into that is the amount of money that's spent in the first round on these QBs. And that's why they throw them into the mix so quick. They're like, why do I want to spend $20-some million and not get anything worth my first year?
Yeah.
So that's the way they're looking at it. But seeing, one of our listeners here posted Mariota signed 2-year for $18 million. I mean, that's right in the alley of what you're talking about, second, third round, saying, hey, let's go in there and get that second, third round pick, not spend as much money, but break him in there, sit him behind Mariota and let him work his way up, and we can throw him into the mix next year and then look at that contract as it evolves to year 3 and year 4. So it's going to be a building process.
Right. It absolutely is. I mean, and I can't say that the Falcons were going to go anywhere
soon
this year anyways. Right. However, I mean, the NFL has been undergoing this transformation over the last 20 years that it is now feasible to switch from a last place team to a Super Bowl contender in a year's time.
Look at Bengals.
Yeah, look at the Bengals. Look at the Eagles. 5 years ago. You know what I mean? So we went from worst to first. And
the amount of money that's being thrown around, it's just like, I mean,
I don't understand how the Rams keep doing it.
It's not. I mean, the amount of, you look at what Deshaun Watson signed for now. Regardless, now it is 230, 5-year deal, X amount, first up, whatever. But the amount of money that's being thrown around is just, it's unbelievable. And while, yes, the fans want to look at it, they're going to realize.
It was funny. I said the exact same thing. He unfortunately, Sneaky G couldn't make it tonight. He had family situation that occurred. So I hope everybody's going to be okay and stuff like that. It's nothing that's, very, very major. However, I told him, I says, we're just going to let everybody know that Giants stink and it'll just be like, you're here. So, yes, that's he didn't give up on his team. Trust me. Out of all the people who should give up on their team and think that, he's definitely drinking the Kool-Aid way too much.
A little
bit. That Kool-Aid's been spiked for a long time for him.
Yeah, but going like I was saying, the amount of money that's being spent, not only in the free agency market, but just retaining players. While the fans are saying, "Oh, well, let's go get this guy, let's go get this guy," they're not seeing the business situations that are falling in the background. And there was a big, I don't know what you want to call it, what Randy Gregory was calling the Dallas Cowboys fan base, calling the Dallas Cowboys fan base toxic, and for a guy who missed 50 games and the Cowboys stuck by his side to give him a contract, he has the audacity to call the Cowboys fan base toxic.
Well, and it's funny. I don't know that he means the Dallas fan base.
No, he said it, Dallas fan base.
Well, when I mean that, I don't think he means that the Dallas people from Dallas, because I tell you what, the Dallas Cowboys,
two different fans.
From Dallas are a group of people. Like I said, the hardest game I ever went to was this past season, week 3. That I've never seen the Dallas fan base so riled up for a game. That they are usually a lot softer, but it's the fans from everywhere else around the country that do a lot more talking than the people from Dallas.
Oh yeah, that's true too. But the situation, of course, when it's monetary, okay, we get it. We get that you have a situation where you're saying that the owners didn't approach you, that you felt disrespected, that this clause is in there. you got to remember, you're going in there to protect the interests of your team. For a guy who's missed 50 games because of, issues, off-field issues, you're not going to go spend that amount of money without watching your rear end and watching your back pocket.
Oh, I thought we were talking about, he would have signed for the Cowboys, but he was high.
That's why he went to Denver.
Yeah, it's just, and it's not, I'm not going to single out Randy. I hope all the best for him. But the thing is, fan bases around this country, regardless of which team, they're just spitting out everything. If it's venom, they're going to spit it out. If it's going to be this, it's going to be that, it's going to be whatever. But it's so hard as a football fan, as a fan of the NFL, to listen to everybody complain about business agreements and contracts when they have no clue what happens on the backside. That's what the PR team's there for, of course. But, the teams right now aren't going to protect themselves. It's just the players who are going out there bad-mouthing everybody else if it didn't work their way, which they have every right to do.
Right. And when I think about that type of stuff, it's just like, all right, well, there's been a lot of that going around, though. I mean, that people are taking shots at organizations, or organizations are taking shots at players now. It's becoming a little bit of a thing that's happening lately, and I feel like that this is part of the social media aspect of things.
Yeah.
That they are starting to go real, people are starting to get real uppity with their attitudes. That's the best way I could explain that everybody's attitude's getting a little bit stronger, and they are all becoming keyboard bullies.
Warriors.
Oh yeah.
Well, that's the thing. Is 5 years ago, 10 years ago, you didn't have a way to vent. Now you have it at your fingertips.
Yep.
And regardless of how many followers somebody may have, it might be their ploy to gain more followers. It's just that social media context. And I don't know if you heard, the Pat McAfee show when he had the new coach for the Miami Dolphins on, and he was talking about the social media aspect on how it intertwines with the players, and the players can just be behind closed doors and put out a tweet or put out an Instagram and something right then and right there to get, the public on their side against the organization. And it's just where we're at right now.
Yeah, and it's not going to get any easier.
No,
it's going to get worse. And I fully expect, like, at what point are they going to start putting, like, the NFL is going to start putting clauses into contracts about their social media?
Well, I'm pretty sure right now. I know there was a situation where somebody had the phone on the field, and that got, that was a little too excessive for the NFL, and they said no more phones on the side of the field.
Right. I remember.
No, I'm not. But I'm not even talking about that. You're going to have
so,
things in the contract specifically saying, "Hey, if you tweet or Instagram, or if you put something out on social media, you're going to get fined."
Well, yeah, and see, that's where it's going to come down to, it's my freedom of speech, da 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 da.
Yeah.
And I think you're correct, because when you get an insight to some of these guys when they're going live on, whatever platform they may be on, and they're sitting inside the locker room, playing basketball, like I've seen, the guys doing, playing hoops, whatever, just having fun in the locker room. Okay. But it's other things that are going to evolve out of that. I think you're right. Something is going to come down. There is going to be some sort of stipulations, especially, when it comes to the fan situations, the interactions that fans are having with those players while they're live. I think, I think the NFL kind of wants that, but I think the NFL teams don't want it as much, because it gives them a little insight behind the preview of what they're doing. So it's a catch-22 situation.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if certain organizations start to use moderators, that your social media has to go through the moderator. In essence, it becomes like a funnel filter where everything that you post at all immediately goes through the funnel to this one person who moderates everything that goes through the team. And I and that's, it sounds ridiculous, because then it sounds like censorship. But in theory, when you're paying these guys so much money, you don't want any of that to get out there. Like, I mean, realistically, the NFL does so much to try to make sure that these guys don't get in any trouble. You could be anywhere in the world and you can call the hotline because you're too drunk, and somebody's going to come get you,
pick you up,
and take you home free of charge.
Yep.
That is something that I wish I had sometimes. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like, it's like I'm wasted. Now I got to rely on somebody else to get me home. You know what I mean? All I got to do is make a phone call and be like, oh, come get me. And at any moment in time, you could call from anywhere in the world and say, I need somebody to come get me, and that somebody can come get you.
Yeah.
And like, you could be in a bad situation. You could be in any, I'm just using drunk as an example.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that,
that's the most common cause.
But that's just the tip of the iceberg. Imagine just, hey, listen, I went out with my buddies, and the next thing I know, there is this ridiculous craziness going on that and everybody's got a phone, everybody's got a camera now. Now all you got to say is there's a huge fight going on that's happening 5 feet away from me, and by proxy, just because of the way that they're looking at the camera and me going like this,
tagged in it. Yep.
Now you're in the middle of a fight.
Yep.
And you didn't have anything to do with it. And ultimately it's like, so that's where, like, those are the reasons why you really want to be able to have somebody get out and use those types of calls. But it's now social media. Sometimes you just can't. I mean, I know, for instance, the Sixers did it to Joel Embiid. You know what I mean? Here it is. He was tweeting so much that they put a filter on him. They just said, hey, listen, we're going to give you a publicist.
Yeah.
That everything goes through. That was the nicest way that they could say, hey, listen, we don't want you to tweet without somebody looking at it anymore, because it's becoming an issue. And although nobody wants to, not nobody wants to say something and then have to recant what they said because they meant something else. Nobody does. Nobody does. But that's what people are, that's what these teams are afraid of. You don't want to say something dumb that's going to cause such a problem.
You're exactly right. And we've all been there. I mean, I know I've been there where, I saw the Randy Gregory situation and I have my fingertips ready and I've typed it out and it's ready to go. And I'm like, oh man, all I got to do is hit send and put my 2 cents in there. And then I'm like, you know what? It's better if I not. I don't need that kind of, I'm a nobody. I am literally a nobody, but I don't want that, those eyeballs looking at me for something that I said, whether he was right or whether I was right. It makes no difference, but it's just something I just go and say, you know what, delete. Yep. I don't need that. I don't need that, I don't need to be putting that out there.
I mean, I have that happen to me all the time. There's lots of times I write whole novels.
Yes.
That
but it feels good doing it though.
That I just put down a draft that only goes on draft because there's no way that I can put that out there. And it's like I have to, like, even right now, like I have to watch everything that I say for every reason, because I'm like, you never know who. I do know who's listening. I do know who's watching. I do know that people watch this show. I do know that people listen to our show. Stephen A. Smith loves watching the show. I mean, I know for a fact he does, because he repeats some of the things we say verbatim. Verbatim, he repeats them. So I mean, and I appreciate the fact that hey, listen, if you want to copy me, I'm all right with that. You know what I mean? Just make sure one day you're going to have me on the show. You know what I mean? That's you might as well just have me. Just hire me as a writer. But besides the point, you know what I mean? It's those are the things that I know what people are doing. And ultimately it's that one thing that you say that could be taken skewed a little bit out of context.
Exactly.
that immediately becomes a problem that shouldn't be.
Well, that's that's where social media is at now. It's like I see, people post their questions, whether it's the athletes or whether it's, these other big social media guys, they put out questions and they want you to answer yes or no or da 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 da. And then people are like you're talking about, they write down a novel and then they insert it for a simple yes or no and everything. They don't want that. They want a yes or no.
Right.
Should we bring him back? Should we not? Yes or no? And people want to just divulge so much more information, all 200 characters, and show a thread on everything else. And it's like, what? No, just put it out there, yes or no.
Yes or no.
It's a lot simpler that way.
Here we go. Here's a question from somebody who actually, I had to point this out. Pork Rind. This guy, the command center has his own podcast, and he would like for us to watch it.
Okay.
So, and I'm surprised that there was a second fan. Washington Commanders fan.
Yeah, there's only one.
Yeah, besides everybody that's in the hog farmers, I was surprised. I'm like, oh, look at that. There's actually,
there's more of us.
But he's asking about Bobby Wagner, and I guess that's a pretty good question to ask. Like, obviously.
I would love to have. I would love to have him. We definitely need a linebacker.
Do you need a linebacker? I mean, you got that great line or the defensive line.
Defensive line, yeah, but we need a linebacker. We do. I mean, we got Cole Holcomb, we got Jamin Davis, who's coming off his rookie year, but we need a veteran guy like Bobby Wagner. We definitely use that.
Well, I know we could use him. I mean, I've been saying since he got let go, I'm like, well, why aren't we calling him up? Is it the money thing? Is it because you don't want to invest that type of money into the linebacker position? Because the Eagles are traditionally, they just don't value that position, which is frustrating to me. But
yeah, that's the thing. That's a crazy thing on how except for Von Miller, of course, who got that huge contract last week. But the linebackers market really isn't that great. I mean, you look at the overall amount these guys are getting paid in comparison to, defensive ends. And of course, those are the run blockers and showstoppers. But the amount of significant difference between a linebacker and a defensive end, $8 million, somewhere in that ballpark. Linebacker gets $8 million, defensive end gets $18 million. So I think that has a lot to do with it. Plus the seniority that he has. What is he at 10 plus years already as well? With in the league.
Well, I have to assume he's 10 plus years.
Yeah,
12 years.
He came out with Russell.
Yeah. So 10 years in the league. So that's another thing. So he could be looking at a whole lot of things, hopefully.
So
and I can't pronounce the guy's name. Zadarius. Who are we talking
Clowney?
about? From Green Bay.
Smith. Zadarius Smith.
Yeah.
He's available.
He's another one up in the air.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know that name as much, but I mean,
he's a linebacker.
Yeah, he is.
I mean, I'm a big fan of guys who know how to play well and can go to the Pro Bowl all the time. Because I know that it's done by your peers. Like, for instance, I know that Fletcher Cox didn't deserve to go to the Pro Bowl a couple times that he did, because I thought that there were other guys who played better than he did. However, because he had the name, he still went to the Pro Bowl, and that's still great. You know what I mean? Obviously, he's still enough of a force to be able to go. And I'll get to Fletcher Cox a little bit more here in a minute, because obviously there was some signings that happened, as I'm getting asked about wide receiver Zach Pascal from the Colts, and Zadarius Smith that's who they're talking about. So I appreciate that from.
Yeah,
and so I've been asked about Zach Pascal. So from what I'm told, Zach Pascal was a good friend of Nick Sirianni, and that they got along really well. and that was the reason why he was able to come here. And it's a 1-year contract. Truth of the matter is that out of 94 receivers that got rated by PFF, he ranked 94th. And which and people say, oh well, now that we got him, we can get rid of Jalen Reagor. Well, the truth of the matter is Jalen Reagor ranked above him. So I'm still on the Jalen Reagor bandwagon. I still believe that Jalen Reagor is better, is a better player than what he showed last year. And I think that it was a little bit too much pressure on him last year to do that. So where does that leave me for Zach Pascal? I still think that we need a big, he's a big body, but I don't think he's a number 2 wide receiver. He only had 38 receptions last year. I know that they had a running attack last year, but I mean, he did throw the ball a lot. You know what I mean? They did have Wentz throwing the ball.
Well,
so
the NFL wide receiver position is you have two types of wide receivers. You got guys that know how to run routes effectively, and guys who just plain out don't know how to run them, but are very fast or very strong. And that's what separates the two. Because a guy who knows how to run routes, 9 times out of 10, he knows how to catch the ball with his hands. That is. The other guys use their body to catch. They just try. It's like playing field football. So I think the NFL quarterbacks are starting to put themselves in positions like what's his name from the Rams,
Matt Stafford.
Matt Stafford putting himself out there and getting himself the wide receivers that he wanted, and saying, "Hey, I need the guys who know how to run routes." So because he's one of those quarterbacks that's going to throw the ball within that window, as comparison to these other wide receivers who don't know how to run those routes, and these guys are just chunking it up there.
Well, and I don't know. Again, of course, I didn't watch the Colts a lot last year because I didn't care for their quarterback. I don't really care for their coach. I mean, I liked his coach when he was with us, but I mean, I feel like that everybody in Philadelphia says that he was the reason why we won the Super Bowl, and I'm still waiting for him to get to the playoffs once. That being said, you know what I mean? So I'm not concerned at all about what's happening in Indianapolis. That being said, I feel that it's Julio Jones is out there. I want Julio Jones here.
Julio, I think he still has he's on a quarter of a tank. He can get
trying
to go.
They're trying to get him to go to the Colts.
Well, I heard that.
Matt Ryan.
That I heard that immediately. It was like, okay, but where are the Colts? Where are the Colts going to get the money? Not only where they're going to get the money, but they don't have a draft. I think their next draft pick is in 2027. You know what I mean? So I'm being a little bit facetious about that, but realistically, they don't. I think they have like 3 draft picks this year.
Well, see, that's the thing. Look at what Cleveland. That's there's so much wheeling and dealing going on that people are losing their draft picks. I mean, Houston didn't have any until 25 or something. Now all of a sudden they've got 3. Right. And Baker Mayfield, he's not going to play for the Houston Texans. He does not want to play with a Texas team. Even though he lives here in Austin, I don't see him playing for the Houston Texans. I can see him going, somewhere to Carolina. Carolina's still in need of a quarterback. I think, with what they've got going on.
He's still under contract, correct?
And they're going to try and wheel him and deal him, but they ain't going to get much, even though he's a first rounder himself.
Now,
I think he's going to go to Seattle.
I can see that. Now, do you think they hang on to him this year just to see how that Deshaun Watson,
because of the money?
That was what I thought. I thought that there was no chance in hell that they could hang on to him because that means they have like 45% of their payroll in
a quarterback.
Right. So
and that's the thing.
That's why I figured. Because ultimately, I think that again, this is where I feel like if he gets rid of them, then
I'm pretty sure this year's Deshaun Watson's contract is only $1 million this year, though, right? Because
he's due $46 million this year.
Yeah, I thought it was crazy.
Regardless.
Okay.
of any outcome that the NFL does. So, yeah, that's why I'm saying, man, these guys, they want a win now mentality, which I get. I mean, that's why fans are upset with, so many teams out there. Well, why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing that? Well, I looked at this. I looked at that. We could have got this. We could have. No, you don't know. We all say what we would think we'd want to do as an NFL owner, but to sign somebody else and put it on paper and then look at the money situation is totally different.
Well, and that's what the Rams have done this year. The Rams have gone all in again to try to win another one this year.
Yeah.
And then so they mortgaged their future completely. Like literally, they are going to have to get rid of just about everybody because, they're like, what are they, like $80 million over the cap next year?
Yeah.
Already. Like they're 80 million over the cap next year. So, it's like that's, and I'm wondering at what point the NFL is going to have to step in because I know it's a numbers game, but realistically, there should be cap limits for future years. Like, hey, you have to stay within. You are exempt up to $30 million over the cap next year, and that's going to wind up happening. That's going to wind up happening.
I was thinking of the same thing because ultimately it's going to come down to affect the fans because prices are going to be raised.
Oh yeah,
and not just on tickets, on everything else, from whatever you consume inside that stadium. It's the prices are going to be so out there. I mean, nothing's going to be hitting, and it's going to be saying, "Oh, look at that! Look at that! Look at that! I gotta go! I gotta go." You're going to go to the fountain drink and go get a $12 soda. You're going to go buy 2 of those for you and your kid. That's where it's going to be at. I mean, that's what it's going to come down to because it's never going to affect the owners. It's going to affect the bottom line, which is the fans.
Yeah.
Right. So all this money that these fans are saying, well, we should go get this guy. You better start thinking about how much those ticket prices. Well, I watch it on TV. That's going to be the excuse that they use. Well, guess what? Somebody's going to have to fill those stands.
Yeah.
So again, it's a catch-22 on that subject. So,
well, I mean, I fully expect that, like I said, I think that the NFL is going to wind up starting to corral that because ultimately, I mean, that's the same problem that the Saints had.
Yeah.
That they were so far over the cap that how are you going to continue to do that over and over again so that,
well, see, when the information came out about Amari Cooper, right, in regards to his contract, that the Cleveland Browns were able to restructure 2 years and then put it on a signing bonus and then put him out the door, eliminate 2 years off the door. And everyone starts going, well, why couldn't the Cowboys have done that? Well, they already had a contract in place that was signed and sealed. So there's no way that they could go back on something that was already signed. Now, I'm not saying you can't renegotiate a contract, but from Amari's perspective and the Cowboys' perspective, a contract was signed. Either the Cowboys could try and restructure, which Amari didn't want to do. We all know that.
right?
And the Dallas Cowboys weren't about to say, well, I can't, I'm not going to pay you twice as much what I think you're worth.
I think Kirk Cousins was mentioned in that conversation, was he not?
Yeah.
What's that?
Kirk Cousins was mentioned in that conversation.
Oh, yeah. That's another
reason. Won't forget that one.
No, that's going to live with me for a while.
It's still out there, dude. I mean, some people are like, did you hear this? Did you hear that? And I'm like, man, I didn't hear nothing. I'm just sticking with that. I did not hear nothing. But
hey, man, you live and die by your team. You know what I mean? That's the one thing that's got to stay.
That's it.
He's going to be your quarterback either way.
Here's the thing. Somebody on the Twitter world went out there and put his resignation in for being a Dallas Cowboy fan and said he was jumping ship and resigning and saying that he's going to jump ship and go be a Chargers fan. You sitting there and you have to think to yourself, well, if a team gave you that much heartburn to jump ship after, so-called being a fan for 20 plus years, and this is what caused the friction to go out the door, then You got some other
Well,
issues.
I mean, first off, you knew that was all bull because the Chargers have less fans than Washington does. So
easier to get in that stadium.
all 6 Chargers fans were in watching the Super Bowl with the Rams fans. So it's I don't know. I look at it just as like, especially when fans say that they gave up on the team. You know what I mean? If you give up on a team, you're not going to go like another team. You're not going to, you know what I mean? Because, it's like a girlfriend, you know what I mean? Like, or or a boyfriend.
Coming back.
Yeah. It's just like, you can't stand to see her with another guy. You know what I mean? Especially if she was somebody who stole your heart. You know what I mean? As you see her with another guy, it's just like, that knife is twisting. So you're not going to be able to, kind of do that.
Yeah.
So,
And it just, you see the jokes that are pulled, guys wearing one jersey be ripping it off and doing another one, and I'm talking about a different opponent's the opponent's team jersey, and it's like, how can you even put that on, man? How do you do that to yourself? Well, it's a joke. No, I think it's a little bit less leaning into a joke than it is reality.
Right, exactly. I mean, because you had to put the thought process in to do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I just, as you're talking about this, when I went to the basketball game a couple Mondays ago, you know what I mean? I actually went there and I had on a Ben Simmons jersey that I literally cut up so that I was able to rip the jersey off. I put Velcro on it and everything. I was able to rip the jersey off, and I had a James Harden jersey underneath. I went there as a joke.
Yeah. See, but the thing is, Ben Simmons was a 76er.
Right. He was a
so
76er. So I'm still wearing a Sixers jersey.
Exactly.
But people are saying, what are you, trolling us to wearing that? I'm like, no, I got a jersey underneath. Trust me, I'm ready to rip this off. But we never even had a chance. I wanted to take it off because I thought it might have been bad luck in the first place. You know what I mean? I'm like, I got to take this thing off. We're getting crushed here by 30 points. So, and that all being said, it was still done and fun, but it doesn't ever get looked at it like that. So
yeah, and like I said, from wearing an opposing player or team's jersey.
Right. Yeah, you can't do that. I would never do that anywhere. Like, I only own 2 opposing fans' jerseys in my whole, out of all the jerseys I own. And I like other players. I just won't ever get their jersey.
I think the only jersey that I would probably ever buy is Pat Tillman's. That's
right. And that's, I know people who have Pat Tillman's jersey.
Yeah.
I could see that, but yeah, even then, I can get a custom-made Dallas Cowboy one.
There you go.
You could. Hey, so I got somebody asking, any idea where
Tyrann Mathieu?
I was kind of hoping he would end up with us, but I don't know.
Well, I know there's talks right now with the Cowboys. I don't really think that's going anywhere due to the value, the price. I mean, that's a high-end safety, the cost-wise, and I think us just re-signing Curse on our side to move him back out of the linebacker position back to the safety position. I think we're good there. It would still be good to have another safety, but I just think he's out of our league as far as price.
Well, anybody who wants to get paid over $5 million is out of your league for price. I mean, you guys have what, like $5 million left in cap space?
If that.
So I see now. There's other people that love this Zach Pascal signing. I said I'm not as excited about it. Like I said, he only had 38 receptions. He's not been really a big force over there. Although he may be a character guy. You know what I mean? Character is going to mean a lot. I can appreciate
especially
that,
in the locker room.
Yeah,
I want guys who are able to. That's why I want Julio Jones. I think Julio Jones as the number 2 receiver allows one. As I was saying this the other day, and it's funny because Jim Jeffcoat was kind of against me on what I was talking about, and I says that I would like to see him come in here and help mentor some of these other guys, but also be the number 2 receiver. And he's like, and then Mac was saying that how no, he may not want to mentor. You can't make a guy mentor, people. And I'm like, well, I'm not making him mentor anybody. You know what I mean? But you're going to pay him to be here. He's going to be the number 2 guy. He's going to help out his other receivers because he wants to win a chip.
Yeah.
He wants to win. We're trying to still win.
Yeah.
So we haven't gone through. We went through a retool last year. This year we got a lot of draft picks, so the retooling is ready to start to actually start to show some dividends. And you went out, you got you got more defensive line help. You got a really strong offensive line at least for another year. Who knows what's going to happen once you get rid of Kelsey. And I feel like that instead of trying to get another young receiver, and I don't trust them in the first or second rounds because we already know what they've done. Last year they hit, but 2 years ago they didn't. 3 years ago they didn't. So I would rather bring in somebody who I know.
Ah, damn. It's hailing over here at my house right now.
I hear it.
Yeah. That's what I was going to say. I'm like, you looked up like that. I'm like, oh, is the tornado right above your head?
My truck's getting beat up outside, but
that
sounds like big hell.
Yeah, your roof, you get, take some pictures of it. You get a new roof. That's insurance. The roofing people will be around, I'm sure.
Well,
here's a question for you, Pork Rind.
Oh man, we need to go offensive line. We need offensive line, linebackers.
I think, looking at the highlights again today, the kid from Pitt was there, and they had him on the highlights, and the top 5 throws, and they were all go routes, and I'm like, that's not what I want to see from my quarterback. I want to see these slants. I want to see these cutbacks. I want to see these short passes that are on the money. I don't want to see somebody running 40 yards down the field with no coverage on them, throwing out crazy. So.
Running back. I think running back was one of your strengths last year.
Yeah, I mean, maybe late round.
So, but I think the reason why the running game stopped working was because so did the offensive line.
Yeah, offensive line would have beat up. I mean, we were on our 4th center, and we lost Sheriff, we lost Flowers, but we did pick up the guy from Jacksonville to replace Flowers. But I mean, we're missing 1 or 2 pieces on that offensive line. I think that's where we're probably going to go first, second round. Offensive line. Yeah.
I mean, I like going after offensive line guy too. I was talking about this with somebody else, the guy from Iowa, monster dude. I think he was a guard.
Throwing around people.
Yeah. And I'm like, that he would probably be around somewhere around that 15 to 19 pick, because I'm hearing now that they may go crazy and take 2 guys from Georgia with 15 and 16 or 16 and 17.
The kid from Georgia for you guys?
Well, not the offensive lineman.
Oh, okay.
Defensive lineman, and cornerback from Georgia.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to say, that kid from Georgia is going to be gone at least within the first 5.
Right. And I don't think that you're not going to be able to get anybody, enough people to fix your offensive line that quickly. So I fully expect Wentz to complete more passes to Eagles this year.
I think you might be wrong there, buddy.
I can't. It's fun because I can't wait to see the green guy with all the reds inside that stadium this coming season.
It'll be fun. It'll definitely be fun.
I could already hear Philly telling Wentz, "Throw it to me. I'm open."
I got I'm your old number. I'm your old number. Yeah. Actually, he was wearing my number.
Oh.
He's going back to that number too.
He's going back to number 11. There you go.
Yeah, there was another release this week, and it was Cole Beasley.
Yeah.
That's somebody I'd like to bring back to our organization just of how good he is, how good he worked with Dak in the past, and if anybody that gets him is going to be better for it. He's just such a good slot receiver.
Yeah, he came across my path today. Somebody asked me if I would want Cole Beasley. I'm like, no, he's not. He's not perfect. He doesn't fit in our system. I want a tall number 2. That's why, like I said, if we were to get Julio Jones and as a number 2, that I would put, and I understand that this is the slot, but I want my slot to be the long guy. So I really want Quez Watkins to be the guy who goes long. So I want him as my number 3. Well, that puts Jalen Reagor as a number 4, wide receiver. And I feel like Jalen Reagor's problem last year had more to do with just pressure. He was just under pressure too much, and it just got to him, and he started to mess up, and when the pressure was the most in the playoffs, and when he felt it the most, he fumbled. And that's what happens. You know what I mean? And so now he's got this stigma
pressure
about him. And I feel like the same thing happened with Nelson Aguilar. We are not really good as a fan base allowing a player to try to develop a little bit without being really hard on them.
Yeah,
I understand they're getting a lot of money.
Eagles fan base. Come on.
Yeah, I get it. I understand. But actually, I it's funny that I have been the guy talking the most, saying, hey, I am a fan of this kid. I think that he's still going to be a good player. I understand that he did not have a good season last year and that he's not Justin Jefferson. He's never going to be Justin Jefferson because Justin Jefferson is Justin Jefferson. Yeah. And I know we could have had him, and that's, too bad, so sad. It's done now. It's done now. That being said, I think that as a number 4 receiver, he's going to excel because he doesn't have to be the man. He's not going to have those, that every time, like, because the Eagles fans also have very short memories. You know what I mean? That they booed him, and then he got a kickoff and ran it back 70 yards. They cheered as all hell. The next time they went back out there, they cheered him. You know what I mean? So I get it. And I understand that, it's hard to play in Philadelphia because we wear our hearts on our sleeves when it comes to our sports. That being said, if you put him in the number 4 spot and you take away all that pressure, all of a sudden you're going to see a much different kid out there. And I feel like that it would be amazing. It would be the same thing like Nelson Aguilar in 2017 when he had Alshon Jeffries, the number 1 guy, and he got most of the passes. And then you also had 2 tight ends that were getting most of the passes. And you had once they got the ball, because you had to cover so many other people, well, he was a lot more open. And the one thing that I could say about Jalen Reagor is that he knows how to get the separation. That's the reason why he got the ball so many times thrown to him.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. The quarterback has a lot to do with it, especially your quarterback. The running quarterbacks and the receivers that catch with their body are not a good mix. And I don't think anybody's ever paid attention to that. And a running quarterback, my quarterback, Dak Prescott, he's a pocket passer. He'll move when he has to move, but people forget how big he is. He's a big kid. But he can't throw the ball when he's on the move unless it's a short pass. Now, he's no Mahomes. Your guy, Philip from Philly, he can throw the hell out of the ball while he's running in the pocket. But the receivers is just what's making all the difference. And that number 2, your deep guy, I don't want a deep 2 guy. That's what my number 1's there for.
Right. That's why I want a deep number 3 guy. I want my number 2 guy to be I want 1 and 2 to be mid route. Like, I want them to be able to run good routes. That's why I would want Julio Jones. Julio Jones would be a great number 2. Back. And I already believe that in Devontae Smith. So I feel like that would be, again, you got 2 good route runners. Then you have the 3rd guy to stretch the field.
Yeah. And I don't want to, that's my thing I'd rather have my 1st and 3rd guy stretch the field, my 2nd guy just to be there when he need him. Because Dak, I'm telling you, when he gets out of the pocket, he's not going to be shutting it down the field. I mean, there has been 1 or 2 times he's done that, but not really. I'd rather have him containment.
Right. And I think Devontae Smith, if you wanted to stretch the field with your 1 and 3, I mean, Devontae Smith falls into that category because he's definitely going to be a lot faster than, Julio Jones.
Yeah.
Julio Jones, I look at as Alshon Jeffries 2 for the Eagles. I'm not comparing them as players, but he's a big guy. He's going to go up and get those 50-50 balls in the end zone. And that's what we want. We want to be able to get him, the guy, if we need to get a first down or we need to get a touchdown and we're going to throw it up in the air like that, we want him to be able to come down with it 75% of the time. And
that's another reason I like my Dalton Schultz at tight end. I mean, he's a great route runner and he can get open and he can get into the spots he needs to be where Dak can relay him the ball. I think that's just, one of those marriages made on the field that's going to work for him. Because everyone always forgets the route running that the tight ends have to do. They say, oh, tight ends just, big, bulky. No, not necessarily. These guys, how they run their route and what they do after contact. That's a big one.
Right.
So.
Kyle Hamilton, is he a top 3 pick? And,
Notre Dame, right?
Is it? I don't know. I don't know college guys, so I can't.
I think he's a safety from Notre Dame. I'm looking him up now.
Okay, good.
No.
They've got him going to Lions at pick number 2. Yeah, he's
really?
a safety from Notre Dame.
Well, the coach is defensive, so I could see that.
Yeah. I mean, try to keep everybody off the board while you're trying to figure out how to get a new quarterback.
I know, right?
Well, I think a quarterback will probably be going in the number 2 position.
Well, I just, the Lions have so many holes, and really, Goff. I understand that nobody likes Goff. It's just like, when he came out, when he was the number 1 pick, there was so many goofy things that were said about him, like that he just wasn't bright. And now it's coming out. I mean, I guess that he's just doesn't have the football acumen, that he's just not that bright. Well, I mean, yeah, but I don't, like I said, if the quarterback position right now is like, what are you going to take the guy from Pittsburgh in the number 2 spot? You're going to take that little short kid who, wowed everybody over in the
Ole Miss?
I don't even know where he's from. He's small and stocky, from what I understand, and a good quarterback. He could throw the ball like a mile. And you know what else? You know what else that I really got excited about? And I'm so goofy about stuff like this. That punter who can punt the ball 80 yards
from
Arizona.
Yeah. Is he going to? Where is he going to go? Is that so? When you think about something like that, is that first round talent?
Hey, watch, Raiders will draft him.
Well, you know what? They don't have those guys anymore that would draft that number 1, because I understand the purpose of that. But thinking about that in the grand scheme of things, you're back at your goal line and you have somebody who can kick the ball, even if it goes in the end zone. If you're back in your 10-yard line and you get the ball now you can get the ball at the 20 because you have a touchback. Well, I'm going to do that.
Well,
every time.
That's why Seattle took their kicker at where they did. Their punter.
When was that? And they took him in what?
That was 2 years ago.
Round?
2 years ago, they took him in the first round. No, the third round.
Yeah, I thought it was the first pick. It was like their first pick on the 3rd day.
Yeah.
So it might have been the 4th round.
4th round.
So, but I can understand that. But now we're talking about, but he wasn't punting the ball 80 yards. He was only punting the ball 50, 60 yards.
Yeah.
And still, I don't remember hearing too much about him this past year. But a guy who's kicking the ball 80 yards consistently. I watched that one video at the combine. He kicked 3 balls 80 yards.
Yeah.
So, that being the case, I mean, is that first round talent? Is that second round talent?
No.
Changing field position that strongly.
Yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying, but no, I'm not going to put somebody up there that's kicking the ball in that position unless he was. Well, we wouldn't even do a field goal place kicker. So, yeah, third, fourth round.
Okay. I just want to know what your opinions are on that.
Yeah, I'd say between third round, fifth round.
It'd be my luck. We get him in the first.
Hey.
Well, you know what? But I think about that, and I think about the Detroit Lions, that they have such a problem right now, and they play in a dome, and that would change field position all the time. All the time.
With that offense, they're always punting, so it makes sense.
Yeah, and that's kind of what your thought process is on that. So, as you get further down the list, you don't need a punter as much because you have a more prolific offense.
Yeah, I don't.
I'm using that as an example because it's crazy.
You're making a valid point there because I mean it's all about where you're placing your defense on the field. You're placing their offense and your defense, and how much better you can do with placement of that ball. But yeah, a team like Detroit, I could see that, but I think they have so much to build. I don't think they would. I'm not going to say waste.
Right. Well, no, and I understand. You're not going to use the number 2 pick on a punter. That's ridiculous.
If that that O-line kid from Georgia's there, I take him at number 2 if he's not the first pick.
Right.
Because that's going to be the O-line is what everybody's going to be going after this year.
I don't know. I'd consider giving up a 3rd round pick for the punter.
For the punter?
For a punter who can punt 80 yards.
Yeah.
And like I said, that can ultimately, if you are having a defense that's not the best way to do is change your situation is to make sure that they have to travel far all the time.
Yeah.
And that's it. It doesn't matter if you're on your own 25-yard line and you can have a punter that kicks 50 yards and they run it back 10. Well, now you've got, you're still 65 yards. If they kick it into the end zone and it comes back, now you've got, 80 yards that he's got to go. That 20 yards makes a difference every time.
Oh yeah, most definitely. But again, 3rd round for me, minimum.
Yeah, I might do the 3rd round too. So, but that being said, these shows go by way too quick. And our next episode is our first birthday. It's our 1-year anniversary of the show. And I'm hoping to get a bunch of special guests in. I am going to be working that stuff out. So definitely tune in next week for our 1-year anniversary episode. But until then, everybody, thanks for tuning in. And of always, go Birds.
How about them Cowboys?
Go Commanders.